the one, the only, Ben Good morning and welcome to the final shear from America, at least for now. I'll be flying this evening back to Israel. You are with me for just Daf It, Daf Yomi Shir. We're doing Sotah Daf Chav Zayin, number 27. I will miss America. I really did like America. But, my wife is from Israel. She loves Israel. Our family's in Israel. So that's where we're living now. So you go with the status quo. We'll talk more about this in my lectures about the 10 dumb mistakes that smart couples make, which I'll resume when I get back to Israel, hopefully. We're in chapter 3 over there about Shalom Bias. I learned a couple things in America about Shalom Bias. I would have loved to stay here in America, but it really is not practical for many reasons, and my wife really wants to live in Israel. So this is a situation, so I'm headed back to Israel tonight. America, is my home. Is my home. That's where I grew up in America. My native tongue is English, even though I've learned to speak Hebrew decently in Israel. Still, I enjoy the food. I enjoy the culture here in America. But what can I do? I married an Israeli, and there's nothing bad about Israel per se. It's a very nice country. The weather's better in the winter. I will miss the American springs. Beautiful in spring over here. In Israel, basically, after Pesach, it just goes straight from winter to summer. There's really only two seasons in Israel. There's 4 seasons in America, 2 seasons in Israel. So there's differences in weather. It's probably easier to make money here, but things cost less there, especially with socialized medicine and basically free education. All right, let's get started. So if you ask me what I recommend to live in Israel or America, I would say if you're younger, go to Israel. It's good also to learn to live in Israel, to live internationally. People in America, they don't really understand there's a world outside of America. They believe that the entire world is America. The world is composed of 50 countries, the 50 states of America. But really, there's a world outside of there, and it's I have an advantage over a lot of people because I've lived now for about 8 years in Israel, and the world runs on kilograms, it runs on kilometers, liters and things like that. I know the different measurements that the whole world uses except America. The technology in Israel is just advanced, even though America's first world country. People that drive electric cars in Israel, I nary see an electric car barely over here, even in the rich neighborhoods. People are paying on their phones, Google Pay in Israel, America, not so much. The iPhone is vastly weaker than the Samsung Galaxy, and I'll make a separate video to prove that. Everyone thinks the iPhone is the best over. There's no other phone besides the iPhone. The Samsung Galaxy is far superior than the Apple iPhone. The picture quality is terrible. The audio is not as good. And it runs on Safari. Did you know that? I didn't even know this. The default web browser on Apple phones, on iPhones, are Safari. Safari, does anyone ever use that besides Apple iPhones? It's awful. You don't have connection in most places. The bandwidth is much smaller than Google Chrome. Some people still, my brother-in-law is still using Safari. He does a search on, for a restaurant or something like that. It doesn't come up. The search is so awful. It's an awful search engine. Obviously Chrome is the best. Even Bing would be okay, but Safari? I didn't even heard of this thing. I was shocked to see. I'm like, where's Chrome? I'm taking my brother-in-law's phone. Where's Chrome? No, Safari. Safari. I thought that was in South Africa. All right, let's go. Let's start. The bottom of Chava Mabez. The last line. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says, Yisa Adam Dome. Top of Chazayim and Aleph. Yisa Adam Dome. Yisa Bas Dome. A woman, if in America, a lot of women, maybe not Jewish women, there are some Jewish women like this. There's rumors going around. This girl, she sleeps around, right? Talk about body counts here. Body counts, how many bodies she's been with. Yisa Bas Dome. It's better to marry a woman who's promiscuous. There's rumors, strong rumors that she's promiscuous. Don't marry her daughter, because it's very likely her daughter is not from the woman that's her husband. Shazu Bami Tipuk Share, Zumami Tipsula, the mother, at least her mother, we don't know was promiscuous or not. We don't assume she's promiscuous. The daughter probably came from some other man. Yochanan argues on Shmuel. Says Yisad and Basdom. He says better to marry the daughter. While Yisad Dom to marry the promiscuous woman. Shazu Omedet Pecheskas Kashras. The daughter, we don't know if she's promiscuous or not. However, the mother, we presume she slept around. Let's bring a question from a Bryson. The Bryson says you should marry a woman who's promiscuous, like Shmuel, not like Rabbi Yochanan. I'm a Rava. Rava says to answer this. It says you should marry a woman who's a duma. You should marry someone who's not promiscuous. Ask Andrew Tate. Women who are sleep around don't have high value. If you're looking for a woman of value, you're looking for a woman to keep her legs closed, as he says. Women who sleep around, they lose value because they're just, they're hard, they're easier to get. A woman who holds out for the right man gives her more value. Jewish from women are more valuable because they won't just sleep around with anybody. Basically, she can marry someone who's promiscuous. Ella, Imnosa you have to amend the brisa anyway and say if he marries, he can stay with her. Tananami bas tumas. Once we're already amending the brisa, we can just amend it in a different way and says really you should marry the person you should marry first is the daughter of a promiscuous woman, not the woman herself. Like Rabbi Yochanan says, what's halacha? Yisa adam bas tuma. Like Rabbi Yochanan, you should marry the daughter. Yisa duma, don't marry the promiscuous woman because she slept around. The Tani Rav Tachliva Bar Rav Kamei Yavav Isha Mizana. And even a woman is promiscuous, she sleeps around, her children are kosher. Why? We don't assume it's a mom's. Even a promiscuous woman, most of the time she's with her husband. Let's say she's extremely promiscuous. She's a harlot. I don't know. She's in the strip clubs. So if she's extremely promiscuous, right? When is it more likely for a woman to conceive? One opinion says she only conceives right before she has her period. Right there, it's obvious. The husband has no idea where she is, right? So it's possible he has no idea when she's going to menstruate. So therefore, it's very possible she committed adultery. She's with a different man. The kids are moms there potentially. He can't watch her. The other opinion says that a woman only, which I believe is common knowledge, that the woman is most likely to conceive it when she goes to the mikveh about 2 weeks after she stops menstruating. 2 weeks after she starts menstruating, I'm sorry. That is considered the time she's more likely to conceive. Came on the other bar, since he knows basically when she's going to conceive, he's going to watch her at that time. He doesn't want to have her wife having mamzerim with other people. Or since she's someone who's promiscuous, she'll even find a way, even she'll find it even when she goes to the mikveh. I was reading the story here. It's called Unorthodox. It's a story by a woman named Devorah Feldman. I found it here in my parents' house. It's a sad story. It's a woman who grew up in a Hasid in Satmar, Williamsburg, and she basically writes about her childhood. It was very difficult for her, and she had all these rules, and she was very rebellious as a young child, reading all these secular books. She ended up getting married at 17 years old to a Hasidish guy from Satmar, who wanted a girl who was a little more open-minded. Turns out she was way too open-minded for him. They couldn't even consummate their marriage for a year. It was very sad story. It's interesting that what I found interesting in the book is she talks in pretty great detail about her sexual life, which was interesting. So about Salma Qasid, she did shave her head. At least in the beginning, she did. Eventually, she hated her husband. Her husband didn't show any affection to her. He just came there together with her. Even talked to her. It's a very sad story, and it goes on in all Satmar. It really opens your eyes to Satmar Hasidus. I'm not saying all Hasidus are like that, but a lot of them are. And also a lot of people in the ultra Orthodox world is probably very similar, even in the Litvish world. It's a very sad situation. I assume this to be true, and I know it's true for sure. It's very sad, and that's the biggest problem, really, when it comes to marriage. But she eventually rebelled completely. She went to college. She eventually got divorced. She got custody of her son. And she came out with this book, I think in 2012, where she basically went on a rant about her childhood and her experiences in the Hasidic community, how she rebelled and left. It eventually became some sort of documentary on Netflix. Well, they obviously changed the storylines a little bit, but so one of the things in the book says that when she was rebelling, her husband thought she was going to the mikvah, and she went out in the car to the mikvah, but she didn't go to the actual mikvah. She just went to some place to watch people or to read a book or something like that. And she came home a couple hours later, and the husband had no clue. He didn't even care. He didn't even ask her about it. He was just like, "Let's be together." Or he didn't say it. I don't know. But, the Gemara says over here, usually the husband is concerned. Who are you with? Did you go to the mikvah? The Hasidic community, not so much. Although Dilma came in the put to be low, she's very promiscuous. So Teku, the Gemara says, we're unsure what the halacha is. Elusha Basin, the Mishnah says Basin sometimes warns in place of the husband. The husband is not around, they warn her in place. I don't want ish. It says ish, matam or ishish. It says the beginning of the parsha Sotah, ishish twice. The rabbos ishish cherish ve'ishish shota ve'ishish shimum. She's the wife of a deaf mute, the wife of someone who is mentally deranged or even insane, where he's attacking other people. Her husband went to overseas, or he's locked up in jail. Based in if there's strong rumors going around she's promiscuous with a certain person, Basin will warn in place of the husband against being secluded with this person. And if she secludes in front of two Eidim, so then she'll lose her ksuva. And you might think even that we would bring her to Beis HaMikdash and have her drink the Sotah. The Pasuk says the husband has to bring her. The Yossi says even in this case you can give her to drink. Obviously you need the husband. The Pasuk says Beis will warn when he's away, when he's in jail. And when he gets out of jail, he'll go and bring her to Beis HaMikdash. What's the machlokes in Riyosi and the Rabbanan? Rabbanan Zavri Ba'inan Vikina Vehevi. There's two psukim, right? What the first pasuk says Vikina, in pasuk Yud Gimel, I believe. Yud Dalet, and pasuk Tedvav. The first word of the pasuk is Vehevi. So the juxtaposition of pasuk Yud Dalet and pasuk Tedvav. So, according to the Rabbanan, Ba'inan Vikina Vehevi, you need the juxtaposition. You need both to be through the husband. There's no juxtaposition. It doesn't darshan the juxtaposition, and therefore you can have the kinoi al the basin and the hevi on through the husband. We'll talk more about this machlokas, the explanation of Riyosi and Rabbanan, and elaborate more on what I've been talking about. Iyad ben Sion and Iyad ben Sion, a separate Ian share coming up next. Tana Rabbanan. Asher tista isha tachas ba isha, right? The woman strays under isha as her husband. Lahakish ish ish. Why is it isha? Why does it mention the husband and the wife together? Isha ish. To compare the two, the same halacha applies to one, applies to the other. What is that teaching you? So there's three different explanations. If the husband is blind, he can't bring her to drink the Sotah. The pasuk says it's hidden from his eyes. Right? If he can't see at all, it's not even hidden, right? He can't see anything. If his wife is blind and she's suspected of committing adultery, she doesn't drink. If she's missing a leg or a hand, she wouldn't drink. How do you know that? You have to put the wecker basket with the mincha sotah on her hands. If she's missing a hand, she can't do it. Similarly, if he's missing a hand or a leg, I guess we assume the leg has nothing to do with putting it in her hands. The leg, if she's missing a leg, she's probably gonna have to be on crutches. She's not able to hold it. So therefore, similarly, if the man, even if the woman is intact, if the man is missing a limb, you can't do the Sotah. Just like a woman who can't speak, she's mute. Part of the parsha of Sotah, she hears the Kohen giving her the klala shvua, And she says amen. She answers amen. She can't speak. She can't do that. Similarly, even if the woman could speak, but the husband can't speak, they would not do mashka the may. So the Hadran Alach Arusa, we have finished the fourth parak of Sotah, and we have finished volume number 1 in the art scroll. I think it's pretty annoying. The art scroll makes you separate this daf into 2 different volumes over here. Let's start Hadran Alach Arusa. Let's start the 5th parak. Kashem shamayim bodkin oso, kacha mayim bodkin oso. Just like the waters check her, meaning if she committed adultery, she'll slowly die a disastrous death. So too, if she's dying, the adulterer will likewise die at the same time. It says vo actually 3 times in the parsha, but it says at least twice. Why twice? One for her, one for the adulterer. Just like, right, when her husband warned her and she's secluded, she's usher not to her husband unless she drinks the Sotah and she's proven innocent. She's also usher to the Baal, to the adulterer. Shenamar nitma v'nitma, right? David Rabbi Akiva says nitma. The word is v'nitma. So nitma without the vav is 1 time. Vav adds on a 2nd time, just like the Baal, just like the Baal. I'm Rabbi Yeshua. Yeshua said to Rabbi Akiva, Kachei Dor is Zachari ben Akkad. Zachari ben Akkad would say, Rabbi Omer, Shnei Pamim. It's the same halacha, but we learn it from somewhere else. Shnei Pamim Hamurim Aparsha v'nitma v'nitma. Echad l'Baal v'echad l'Baal. It's not because of the vav. We don't darshan the vav. It just says nitma twice in the parsha, 1 for the Baal, 1 for the Baal. Bo Bayom Darsh Rabbi Akiva. Bo Bayom is a reference, at least according to the art scroll. If you're familiar with the Sekas Brachos, most people are familiar with the story where Rav Gamliel got angry at Rabbi Yeshua and embarrassed him, and they removed Rav Gamliel from the Mina Nasi. They appointed Elizabeth Azariah, who was 18 years old, and he grew a beard and looked like 7 years old. And they were more lenient. They let a lot of people into the base matters. There was a lot more learning that day. Eventually, Rav Gamliel apologized, and they brought him back. But that day, where they let in all the Talmidim, they learned a lot of things. So, Bo Bayom Darash Rabbi Akiva v'kli cheres hashiyipol mehem el tocho kol asher v'tocho yitma. An earthenware kli, anything which falls in inside of it, yitma. Eda omer tame. It doesn't say anything that falls in it will become tame itself. El yitma, it will make something else tame. Latame acherem limeid al kikar sheni shnitma es hashlishi. Comes to teach you there's a concept of shlishi min Torah. Right? In Tuma, you have the Ava Tuma. The Ava Tuma, like a sheres, is considered Ava Tuma. Or something which touches a corpse is an Ava Tuma. Now, Ava Tuma, if the sheres falls into an earthenware kli, let's say an oven, earthenware oven, they use that earthenware ovens. So therefore, it makes, it's a rishon Tuma. It makes the oven itself a rishon l'tuma. It touches the oven, so that's a rishon l'tuma. Then whatever's in the airspace of the oven, we learn in a different Gemara. If you put a bread in the oven, even though it's not touching directly the walls of the oven, that becomes a sheni l'tuma. And the Pasuk says yitma. Whatever you put in the oven, the bread you put in it will be matami something else. So if it's a sheni, so it must make something else. The next down the line is shlishi. Now we know sheni is only applicable for chulin. Not saying it's a shlishi by chulin, but shlishi does apply by truma. So Rabbi Akiva learned that from the Torah, din d'oraisa. Amar Rabbi Yeshua, when he heard about this, Drush Rabbi Akiva, Mimagala Afar Minachar Yochanan and Zakkai. Who will remove the dust from Yochanan and Zakkai? Yochanan and Zakkai is the teacher of Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Lazar. Shayisa Omer, Asid Dor Acher, L'Tar Kikar Shlishi. Shayla Mikra Torah. He said, no one will ever find the source that a Shlishi is Tamim in a Torah. Shehu Tamim. V'alo Rabbi Akiva Talmidcha. Rabbi Akiva, you're a student. He was a student of both Rabbi Yochanan and Zakkai and Rabbi Shua and Rabbi Lazar. Maybe lo mikra min Torah shu tami shenemar kol shev yitma. He actually wrote a pasuk. You thought it would never happen. It happened. Rabbi Akiva wrote it. Baba Yom Darash Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva also that day darshan something else. Madosa mechutz leir es pas kedma alpayim ba'ama. It's talking about the Ir Levim. Levim were given 48 different cities. They didn't have their own portion in Eretz Yisrael. They're given 48 cities. It says that outside the city limits, they got. One pasuk says they got 1,000 amos, and one pasuk says 2,000 amos. So the first pasuk says alpayim ba. Mikra echad omer mikira ira chutza elef amma. From the walls of the city outside, 1,000 amos saviv around. Yev shar lomer elef amma shakar nemer alpayim. You can't say 1,000. The first pasuk says 2,000 amma. Yev shar lomer alpayim. You can't say 2,000 amma shakar nemer elef. One pasuk says 1,000 amma. Haket. How do we reconcile these two pasukim? Elef amma migrash. Elef amma is considered empty open space to grow nice flowers and plants. The Alpayim Amma Tchuma Shabbos. And Alpayim Amma is 2,000 hours from the city limits, which includes 1,000 in the Midrash. And we'll see 1,000 that you can plant vineyards and stuff like that. So one's talking about the Tchum Shah, which is 2,000. It's really 2,000 amos, but 1,000 of those were an empty space, a midrash. Rabbi Lezer ben Benosha Rabbi Yosef Lili Omer Eloha Midrash Alpaim Amma Sadas Ukram. This is really the same thing. It's just a different way of saying it. 1,000 amos, the first 1,000 amos outside the city was for an open space for beautiful flowers, and the other 1,000 amos, which is the Tchum Shabbos, in totality is 2,000 amos. The other 1,000 amos is to plant vineyards and orchards. Boba Yom Darish Rabbi Akiva Az Yasher Moshe Bnei Yisrael As Hashira Hazos LaHashem Kriyas Yamsuf. They said Lamor. They Vayomru Lamor. They said to say. What Lamor? What does it mean to say? Right? They sang. What do you mean to say? Matam Lamor Lamor. Malamisha Yisrael Onan Shira Achra Shal Moshe Al Kol Davar V'Dar. When Moshe Rabbeinu was saying Az Yashir, they would do it in like a sing-song type of way. He would say the pasuk Az Yashir Moshe, and they would repeat it. Like you say Hallel, part of Hallel, Holy Hashem Kitov, and you repeat it after the Chazan. L'kach nemar lemor, that's why it says lemor. Nechemia omer korin as Shema, lo korin as Hallel. He said no, the way they did it at Kriyas Yamsuf was like reading Shema, not reading Hallel. I was in Kriyas Shema, you don't really answer after the person. Well, the Gemara will explain the difference in the two opinions, whether it's Shema or Hallel. Boba Yom Darsh Rabbi Yeshua ben Horkin. Yeshua ben Horkin was a Talmud of Rabbi Akiva. Lo ava Eov es HaKadosh Baruch el me'ava. Eov, the famous story about Job, did he exist? Did he not exist? I don't think he existed. Job is a job. That's the way you say in English, a job. The most painful thing is to be occupied in a job, not as an employer, but as an employee. An employee is one of the worst things, the worst tortures you can go through. That's why you should always be an entrepreneur and run your own business, because otherwise you're working for somebody else. You're helping him build his business. You're getting some measly paycheck where you can't get a raise for, how much can you get a raise? And it doesn't even match the rate of inflation. Especially if you want to have more money for luxury items. Anyway, Eov did it for a love. Shenemar hein yikdeluni lo yachel. Even if he'll kill me, Eov said in one of the psukim, I will desire for Hashem. However, you could say it's not clear. Ani mitzapa, any mitzapa. Lo could be read, I will desire for Hashem, I will love Hashem. Or you could read lo without a vav, will be lo, I won't desire Hashem. Any mitzapa. Talmud lomar ad egva lo aser tu masi. Until I die, my wholeness will not remain. A whole being a whole with Hashem is loving Hashem. So tu masi imenim. Malamid shem ava asa. He served Hashem with love. Amar Yeshua mi gal afar minecha. Rabbi Yeshua, this is Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya, he said, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he said, it was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who's going to remove the dirt from your eyes? He said, you said, Eov only served God from fear. That's the first pasuk basically in Eov. It says he was Yorei Elokim. Yeshua, who was a Talmud of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was a Talmud of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, and his Talmud, Yeshua ben Horkinus, he brought a pasuk which said, what are you going to do now? He brought a pasuk that Eov actually served from love. That even though you have a job, a really difficult job, you can still do it out of love. It's avoda, it's servitude to your employer, but you can do it out of love. You could basically make in your mind that you really love your job. You love helping somebody else. But again, it's avoda, it's work, it's worshiping or servitude to somebody else, not to yourself. Hope you enjoyed today's share. See you tomorrow, hopefully, from Israel. I'll be landing hopefully around 1 o'clock Wednesday, Israeli time. So maybe tomorrow night in Israel, I'll be giving a shir. Hopefully, bye from America. We'll see you in Israel. Stay tuned for Ian with Ben Sion when I talk more the difference between Kinoi and Stira, the difference. Explain the Machlokes Rabbi Yossi and the Rabbanon on Chav Zayin and Aleph. Ian with Ben Sion coming up next.